Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua met Central Region leaders to intensify the fight against illicit brews. And in government latest appointment, Kiraito Murungi and David Maure top the list of the newly appointees to lead government parastatals.
This is KUTV Primetime News with MUTEGI K. Martin.
And SAMMY OKELLO is with me in the sign language interpretation. Now join us for the next 1 hour as we inform you on what's happening in the country, in Africa and the rest of the world for the next 1 hour. Now, to begin with that, Muslims faithful in the country have joined other Muslims around the world to mark Eid celebrations following the end of Ramadan, where Muslims faithful fasted and prayed for about 30 days. Believers have been asked to be mindful of the less fortunate by providing rations or giving cooked meals to those struggling in their neighborhoods.
After the sighting of the moon on Thursday in several parts of the country, marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan, a section of Muslim faithfuls across the country today marked the Eid al-Fitr celebrations. The Eid al-Fitr celebrations mark the end of Ramadan, the 9th month in the Islamic calendar. The month is a time of fasting, prayer, and spiritual purification. President William Ruto, in the spirit of Ramadan, took to Twitter to wish Muslims across the country blessings on this day in a tweet that read, "May Allah accept your fasting, prayers, charity and righteous deeds and allow us to see many more months of Ramadan in faith and good health." Former Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho, who had been absent in the political scene for a while now, took the opportunity to express his concerns regarding the high cost of living, while at the same time wishing his fellow Muslim community a happy Eid celebrations.
Hali imekuwa ngumu sana na kwa sababu ya mipango ya kiserikali ambayo haieleweki. And therefore ni lazima watu wanasikia uchungu mkubwa kwa sababu hali imekuwa ngumu. And I give you an example. Sisi kama Waislamu kuna kitu inaitwa Zakatul Fitr. Zakatul Fitr last year and the year before, a few years ago, ulikuwa unalipa takriban 300-400. This year it is 700 per person.
Former Chief Kadhi Sheikh Ahmed Kasim, on his part, urged Muslims to think about the poor and needy by providing food rations to them.
Kwa upande wa Zakatul Fitri ni muhimu sana hii itekelezwe na Waislamu wote. Kila ambaye amemiliki cha kumtosha yeye siku ya Eid na kumzidi, basi anatakiwa alipe Zakatul Fitri.
In Machakos County, Sheikh Anas Abdallah of Jamia Mosque in Machakos asked Muslims all over the country not to get caught up on discussions concerning the differences on the Eid Day celebrations. He points out that such differences are acceptable in the Islamic teachings.
Ijapokuwa kuna wenzetu wengine watakamilisha kufunga leo, hiyo ni yote inakubalika katika mafunzo yetu ya kidini ya Kiislamu, si jambo la kugombana ama si jambo la kutatizana.
In the Islamic calendar, there are two festivals observed by Muslims every year. Eid al-Fitr is marked just after Ramadan and Eid al-Adha is marked during the month of Hajj. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV.
One person died while 23 others sustained. Bus and a Toyota Hilux car were involved in a head. According to Machakos County, along Nairobi-Mombasa Highway near the Shell filling station a few meters from Manzoni Lodge in Athi River, Machakos County.
hours in traffic on Thursday, April 20th, following an accident at Sabaki along Mombasa Road. A driver of a speeding car lost control and slid off the road before rolling several times. The pickup landed in a ditch after the driver made several attempts to control it during the morning rush.
Apologies for that mix-up. Now we move on to politics and governance. Members of county
addressing members of county assemblies from central Kenya counties of Kiambu, Nyeri, Murang'a, Kirinyaga and Nyandarua counties, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has called on all leaders to support the government, saying that the region and by extension the country is at risk of losing the youth to substance abuse.
We are concerned as the leaders from this region and for the whole country, really, that if we don't intervene, we can lose an entire generation. The situation in central Kenya and the rest of the country is worrisome.
The DP says they will not relent on the path to stamp out illicit brews and drug abuse until the war is won. He called on the members of the county assemblies and members of the parliament to complement government efforts by formulating laws and policies that aid in eradicating the vice.
And we want to explain that why we have started here is because from the statistics from NACADA, this area is worse hit at 14%. Once we succeed here, and we must succeed, we'll use the interventions here as a model for the rest of the country.
Additionally, the DP says that for the fight against the vice to be won, counties must enact tough laws that make it difficult for distribution and sale of alcohol in their respective counties.
And we are really discussing with them on how we can make uniform laws across the 5 counties to come up with very stringent rules and regulations to regulate the sale of alcohol, the issues of drugs, and indeed to come up with very stringent penalties to act as a deterrent.
Earlier this week, the Deputy President in his development tour at the coast promised to extend the effort to the region and all other parts of the country to save the youths from the destruction. As the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua strikes to end the prolonging drug abuse in the country, he has pleaded with the youth to distance themselves from the vice. James Murekimanda, KUTV.
And still in politics, the DP has hit out at former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta, stating that she should not only praise the freedom fighters, but surrender half of their family land to the descendants of the freedom fighters. Gachagua issued these remarks in central Kenya, where he was leading consultation meetings with members of county assemblies to curb the increasing rate of illicit brew in the region.
Speaking in Nyeri County during a meeting with members of county assemblies, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua called upon the former First Lady to surrender half of their family land to the freedom fighters, claiming that the Kenyatta family amassed plenty of land, which according to him should belong to the freedom fighters, as they contributed to the independence of Kenya.
Nimefurahi sana kuona watu jana wakisema wanafikiria sana vile watasaidia watu ya Mau. Hata kama hawajasaidia kutoka 1963, hawajachelewa.
The DP says that the utterances by Mama Ngina that some leaders are posing as imposter sons of freedom fighters will not deter him to fighting to what belongs to the freedom fighters. He, however, argues that he has nothing to fear since he is a son of Mamau fighter, and that Mamau sons and daughters who are suffering in poverty should possess what they rightfully own.
Ile tunauliza tu ni wasaidie na njia ya maana. Ile mashamba yote walichukua ya Mamau, waangalia hata kama ni nusu. Wape watu ya Mamau na watoto yao ni kwema. That's all we are asking. Hakuna shida, they are not late.
He further says that he is ready to engage with the Kenyatta family in case they plan to divide and share their farm to the descendants of the freedom fighters.
If they can consider even half, of that land they took from Mau Mau, watuite. If they want my services, I can organize a Mau Mau. Tuongee hiyo maneno, watukatie mashamba nusu, tupatie hao title na hao waendelee na hiyo ingine, hakuna shida.
Then threatened reactionary remarks by the DP follows after the former First Lady hosted the former freedom fighter Muthoni Kirima at a residence where she praised her and asked those pretending to be Mau Mau fighters to stop and seek peace. James Mureke Mwenda, KUTV.
Allow us to bring you our previous story of the accident that happened earlier, now where one person died and 23 sustained serious injuries after a passenger bus and Toyota Hilux were involved in a head-on collision before bursting into flames. Let's take a look at that story.
Today early morning, a Toyota Hilux which was heading towards Nairobi direction collided head-on with an oncoming passenger bus. The driver of the Toyota Hilux was trapped inside the pickup which burst into flames, thus being burnt beyond recognition. On the other hand, the bus driver and the passengers were injured and rushed to Machakos Level 5 Hospital for treatment, while the deceased was taken to the facility's mortuary awaiting an autopsy and identification. The Machakos County Police Boss Joseph Ole Napayan has questioned motorists against flouting traffic rules to curb accident cases. Napayan said officers from Kiumbi Police Station Traffic Department have launched investigations into the accident. The wreckages were towed to Kiumbi Police Station for inspection. According to the National Transport and Safety Authority NTSA, at least 974 lives have been lost through road crashes from January up to now. Some of the accidents witnessed since the beginning of the year include the Migori accident that involved a lorry transporting rice from Nairobi to Isebania, a bus carrying a group of mourners that rolled at the Josa area along the Wundanyi Mwatate Road in Taita Taveta County, a matatu carrying 11 students among other passengers colliding with a trailer at the Nairobi-Nakuru Eldoret Highway a few days ago, among other cases. Kadari Chari reporting for KUTV.
Former Meru County Governor Kiraito Murungi has been appointed as chairperson of the National Oil Corporation of Kenya Board of Directors by President William Ruto for a period of 3 years. Through the Gazette notice, the president has also appointed former Tharaka Nithi Governor Samuel Ragwa as the chairperson of the National Cereals and Produce Board and former Makueni County Deputy Governor Adelina Mwau as the chairperson of the Board of Directors at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC. The two will also serve for 3 years. At the same time, 2022 presidential candidate David Maore has been appointed chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the National Environment Trust Fund for a similar term. Professor Kimathi Mbogori has been appointed chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Kenya Veterinary Vaccines Production Institute, Richard Cheruiyot, chairperson of the Export Processing Zones Authority, and Godfrey Lemiso, chairperson of the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation for 3 years as well. Now, after a loud silence since the end of the Azimio la Umoja campaigns and the 2022 general elections, ODM Deputy Party Leader Ali Hassan Joho has said that he has been off political arena due to the health issues, while affirming his support for ODM and Azimio leader Raila Odinga. Joho also hinted a political comeback once he is fully recovered.
The ODM Deputy Party Leader and immediate former Mombasa County Governor Hassan Joho has made his first public appearance since the August 9th, 2022 general election. While marking Eid celebrations in Mombasa, Joho stated that he has been on a recovery journey after having undergone surgery.
I have been unwell. I have gone through some surgery. I am recovering, and that is the only reason as to why you haven't seen me where you're supposed to see me. But
according to the former county boss, he is in full support of the Azimio la Umoja coalition's protests and will be at the forefront of leading mass action once he is fully recovered. Weighing in on the cost of living in the country, Joho says that Azimio la Umoja's demands for the bipartisan talks, including reduction on the cost of basic commodities, are valid and should be met, highlighting that he is in full support of Odinga's ideologies.
Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya, hali ngumu ya uchumi is obviously as a result of poor or bad governance. I subscribe 100% fully, completely to the ideology of Azimio and that of Raila Amolo Odinga. It must be known. Mimi ni ODM, ODM ni mimi. Baba ni mimi na mimi ni baba.
Joho says he supports Azimio demos as he speculated that the protests might also be witnessed in Mombasa, this even as Azimio plans to hold demonstrations after the Ramadan period.
And they would want to politicize kila kitu, day in, day out. Year in, year out. Ni siasa tu, mdomo. Huku chini, wananchi anasota kusota. And therefore there are fundamental issues that must be addressed. And that mimi naunga mkono ikamilifu. Hata nilikuwa nasikitika kwa nini kwengine huku kwetu. Kulikuwa kidogo lakini kutaamka mimi.
Before his recovery break from politics, the ex-governor had drummed up full support for the Azimio boss Raila Odinga on the race to State House in the 2022 general election, where he lost to President William Ruto. Since the announcement of the presidential winner, this is his first public appearance. Mutweri Eliud, KUTV.
Siaya County has recorded a decrease of 84% of HIV/AIDS infection among adolescents. This was established on a sensitization program in the county to find ways to bring to an end new HIV infections, adolescent pregnancies, and sexual and gender-based violence. Here's that story produced by Mombi Wainaina.
Sensitization program for community opinion leaders on ending new HIV infections done at the Kenya Medical Training College grounds in Siaya County, as well as putting an end to adolescent pregnancies and sexual and gender-based violence, has revealed the country has recorded an 84% drop on HIV infections. According to the Director of National Endemic Disease Control Council, Lucy Gatim, the country's new HIV infections among the adolescents stood at 5,123, with Siaya contributing 7%. The number of infections among the 10 and 19 years age group dropped from 2,355 to 371 in Siaya.
However, Siaya County still contributes 7% of these numbers, and this is around 371 new HIV cases annually of new adolescents and HIV infections.
Siaya County Executive Committee member for Health Dr. Martin Odhiambo said that though the country has made some milestones in the war against HIV and AIDS, a lot more still need to be done.
We get about 7 cases every week. 7 new cases in our county. That is not good. We need to reduce that to 0 new cases. And that's why we are here.
Siaya County Commissioner Jim Njoka on his part challenged all stakeholders to work in unison to win the war against the virus. Njoka says that the gender-based violence was still a threat to the society, as most people feel shy to come to the open.
People are unwilling to talk about it. And therefore, one of the challenges that I want to throw to all of us here, who are leaders in one or the other, is that we must start talking about it. We must start talking about triple threats in our forums, whether it is the churches, public barazas, or forums.
Currently, a campaign dubbed the Triple Threat Campaign, that is a whole government approach to ending new HIV infections, unintended pregnancies, sexual and gender-based violence among adolescents, girls and young women by addressing the drivers of risk and vulnerability in this population. Auma Evans for KUTV, Nairobi.
Thank you, Auma Evans, for that particular story. That story brings us to our first break right here on KUTV Primetime News. When we come back, you remember that in the country, there have been infections, gastrointestinal infections, as I would call them, suspected cholera infections in our schools. We're going to discuss on how our students eat and how they should eat. I'm going to be joined by Zipporah Thuku, who is a public health consultant, to shed light on this. See you on the other side.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
What's up, fashionistas? Looking for a show that brings you the latest in the world of fashion, glamour, creativity, and style? Fashion Diaries got you sorted as we explore street fashion, modeling, runways, red carpet events, and so much more.
Catch me, Ashley Asachi, as we unlock the greatest fashion events. Keep it locked.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Welcome back. You're still watching KUTV Primetime News. Sammy OKELLO and I are back, and we're going to be joined by Zipporah Thuku, a public health consultant, to talk about a very sensitive issue that has been repeating itself over time in this particular country, in our schools and elsewhere. But the point of focus tonight is our schools. I'm talking about cholera-related symptoms in our schools. We have seen schools like Upper Hill, schools like Mukumu girls, Mukuoni boys, Butere boys, Kaga boys being affected by these cholera-like symptoms. And of course, a number of research has been done that has proven some of the diseases that have been found in a number of schools are not cholera per se, but are other gastrointestinal infections such as amoebiasis and typhoid fever. But all in all, cholera or not, we have a problem with contaminated food and drinks, and that's our point of focus. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're joined by Zipporah Thuku, who is a public health consultant, to help us understand a bit on this. So karibu sana Zipporah, to
Thank
this
you very
conversation.
much.
Amazing. So, is there something I haven't mentioned about you, even as we begin?
I will say you have done a good introduction. My name is Zipporah, a public health consultant in Kenya with an academic background in public health mainly.
All right, amazing. Just before we go to the gastrointestinal infections, and you're gonna, okay, I'll leave the jargon to you for now. But before we go there, let's talk about what our students eat. Even before we go to the contaminated food and drinks, just talk from a public health specialist perspective. What majority of our high schools are eating as part of their meals? Is it standard? Is it up to standard, if I may ask?
Okay, we will say ideally a right meal, or defining a right meal, a good meal should be nutritious. And a nutritious meal is mainly a wholesome meal, a meal that should be of benefit to your health. And this has been challenged in many ways in our public schools, mainly with the many shortages of water, personnel, knowledge, and food insecurity mainly. So answering that, we will say it's a no for most of our public schools because of the many challenges that face that the meal initiative programs.
All right, and in line with that, what would you propose as the remedy for this, seeing that these are government schools? Does the government have a play and a role in that? Because we cannot afford to keep students in boarding schools, especially, and not give them proper or balanced diet. So what do you think can be done to make sure that these meals are well planned and prepared as well?
Ideally, every public school should follow the stipulated guidelines and policies laid by the Kenyan government, which again is also a challenge because of insufficiency of human resource and the food itself and the funds. But looking at the detailed plans of making sure food is healthy and nutritious, there are some basic guidelines, mainly like using clean and safe water, preparing food the right way, cooking it to the right temperature, ensuring you don't mix raw and cooked food together, storing food in the right storage spaces, and also ensuring this food is also cooked by certified personnel that go through a medical check and get certificates for it. So with that, most of these contamination or infections that are spread through contamination will be checked. And also ensuring every student is also aware of what they're supposed to do, especially like washing hands and washing their utensils.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much for that. Now let's get to the big thing in the room. I don't know. I don't want to call it other names, but let's talk about cholera. We've talked about other gastrointestinal infections and diseases that affect the gut and specifically the bowel and the stomach. And cholera is ranking very high this particular season. So allow me to just talk about cholera for tonight and see how we can be able to tackle this particular disease that has troubled people over the years. What is cholera? People, we just mentioned what really is cholera and how is it different from other gastrointestinal diseases?
So cholera mainly is an acute diarrheal disease that affects the gastrointestinal system, and it's mainly it's a contagious disease. You only get it from contamination of food and water. And when we say contamination, it means the food is contaminated with Vibrio cholera, which is a bacteria that is mainly a fecal bacteria. So you basically eat feces in water and food. It's basically eating contaminated food and water. That's it.
All right. Now, at one point or the other, one might find themselves, whether in schools or not, infected by this particular disease. What what if you suspect the symptoms, and maybe you're gonna mention a few other symptoms that may come up as a result of cholera. If you find yourself with like symptoms, cholera-like symptoms, as we have seen in our headlines for these particular schools, what are the first steps that people should do to, avoid deaths or these severe cases?
So cholera, to start with, could be symptomatic. It could be like it's an acute disease generally. It could be symptomatic or asymptomatic. Asymptomatic to mean you could get cholera and still not get any symptoms. But in an instance that you get the symptoms, which in this case mostly are usually diarrhea and vomiting, one should immediately go to hospital because cholera is life-threatening. And once you go to hospital, or maybe before you go to hospital, the patient needs to be hydrated. They need to drink water. That is either, if they're inactive, they could get the ORS, which is the oral rehydration salt, which is a combination of sugar and salt. They could take that. But if they are not able to get it, they could just get normal water drink as they head to hospital. Then if this was like a highly suspected case, the surfaces should be decontaminated, cleaned, that is. Water should also be treated around the area. Authorities should be informed so that they conduct surveillance activities, and the patient should be treated. And another good initiative is to ensure that people around that place are all vaccinated, to ensure that they don't either get active disease or they completely don't get sick.
All right, you talked about sugar and salt, combination of sugar and salt as part of the remedy or the cure for this particular disease. Any other medicines that can be found around people and maybe in the chemist? Let me just assume where someone lives very far from the hospital, and we need to make sure that the process of curing or the process of healing is starting to happen in the body, as the case you've given for sugar and salt. Are there any home items at home or substances at home or at the chemist which could be near a home that someone can use?
It is highly recommended that a suspected case should be taken to hospital because cholera itself is life-threatening, and a medical diagnosis should be made to diagnose cholera. So it's not something that will make a diagnosis from home, but from home one will get the diarrhea and vomiting, which could lead to being suspected. So apart from the oral rehydration salts and just normal water that could be used for rehydration, it is highly recommended that someone doesn't get over-the-counter medication. The best thing will just be head. Because again, if you treat this at home, there is high risk of also contaminating other people in the homestead or in the community at large. And that would not be the most ideal case of a good way of handling or managing cholera.
All right, as we wind up our conversation tonight, do you think Kenyans, particularly students in the schools and staff members around our schools, do you think they have adequate information about these particular diseases? Or is it just a matter of negligence? What have they not understood so far about these particular diseases as they keep coming up every year?
The challenges probably, I will say it's not a direct challenge or a problem with the staff or the people preparing the food in the schools. This problem will be highly trickling up from the highest management going down, because some of these things can be kept at check if all public schools adhere and follow the stipulated, say like the National School Nutrition and Meal Strategy, which is something that needs to be checked or implemented by the senior management of schools. And some of these things usually lack. Again, there is also poor knowledge or lack of knowledge completely on the staff who handle food at schools. Equally with the children, or rather if they know, they do not know the clear implications or the complications of cholera. So there's a knowledge gap which could be addressed either from the school level or going upwards to the national level.
All right, just before I let you go, in our high schools, a lot of things have come up, and one of the most, it's an old tale which has been proved to exist in our schools, where paraffin is put in our food. Just before I let you go, I thought it was important for us to get your view on that. Do you think it's right? Because they have, and talking about the schools administrations have come out to defend themselves in that particular action. Do you think it's right to put some of these substances in the food that our students take, no matter how kidogo they put in the food?
Ideally, we say nutritious meals should be meals that are healthy, like provide health to a human being. So if a substance is being added to food, the first question would be, is it affecting the nutritional value of the food? If yes, in whatever sense, say a toxin or something that would alter any function of a human body, or it contaminates it in the sense that maybe it has bacteriological intoxication, then definitely it's a no. If it adds any nutritional value in the sense that it helps the body, yes. If it does not or alters the function of the body, then definitely that is a no.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this particular conversation. Do you think this disease will be kept at bay at one point?
I missed you at some point. I didn't get your question right.
It was a question regarding the future. We are looking at the future. According to you, do you think we are going to learn and at some point keep some of these diseases at bay?
Yes, there is hope, and the other thing is there is a lot of hope, and the fact there is a lot of preventive medicine being practiced currently, with vaccination, a lot of health education, a lot of people embracing the right things in terms of even following the right procedures in implementing things. Yes, so there is a lot of hope. And most of these things, they are communicable and highly preventable. So in the future, we expect that most of these diseases will not be matters that will be affecting our communities.
All right, thank you so much, Zipporah Thuku, for joining us tonight and informing us on these particular gastrointestinal infections that have forced some of our students to stay home for a long time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you as well. Thank you.
All right, Zipporah Thuku there, public health consultant, teaching us on how we should keep some of these diseases at bay. We take a very short break. We'll be coming back and taking stories around the continent.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with MUTEGI K. Martin.
Welcome back. Let's look at what's happening in our continent. The Pentagon is positioning military forces near Sudan to help evacuate U.S. embassy personnel in Khartoum if needed, amid the explosion of violence between the African countries' two warring factions. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and other leaders are pushing for a ceasefire until at least Sunday. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports from the State Department.
The World Health Organization says at least 330 people have been killed and about 3,200 others injured since fighting broke out Saturday between government forces and a paramilitary group in Sudan. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel said the U.S. condemns the violence in the strongest terms, and that Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been in contact with both sides and is calling on them to extend the ceasefire until at least Sunday.
We're engaging in this from all corners of the department and continue to have full accountability of our personnel. You saw the Pentagon put out a statement earlier today that through U.S. Africa Command, they are monitoring the situation closely as well and conducting prudent planning for various contingencies. And as they said, they are deploying additional capabilities nearby to the region should circumstances require it.
At the White House, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said U.S. Embassy staff members are sheltering in place, and no decision has been made yet on evacuation.
The focus right now is on urging both sides to stop this violence, to abide by a ceasefire, to allow humanitarian aid to get to people that need it. I mean, there's already shortages of food. There's concern over shortages of medicine and water. The situation is dire in Khartoum, and we continue to urge both sides now to stop this violence.
This call also came from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
I appeal for a ceasefire to take place for at least 3 days, marking the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, to allow civilians trapped in conflict zones to escape and to seek medical treatment, food, and other essential supplies.
There are estimates of up to 16,000 Americans in Sudan and about 70 U.S. Embassy staff members. The U.S. has some military forces stationed in the neighboring country of Djibouti, which experts say would likely be used for any evacuation operation. After hunkering down indoors since Saturday without electricity, many civilians in Khartoum and the surrounding areas are running out of water and the most basic supplies. With Khartoum's international airport shut down and its border with Chad closed, there are few good options for international aid workers and others to leave. One expert told VOA the Biden administration does not want a repeat of the hasty U.S. departure from Afghanistan.
Well, I think we can't sell short the comparison to Afghanistan, especially if we're contemplating the visuals of Americans leaving a besieged city when civilians are begging for their own lives, begging to be evacuated along with Americans and international staff. I think that's a terrible optic for the United States to be sending in Africa right now.
In Port Sudan, some civilians have fled the fighting on foot. Cindy Sain, VOA News, the State Department.
Now, Pacific Island nations are pushing back against Japan's request to release into the ocean treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which was disabled in an accident 12 years ago. During the Group of 7 environment ministers meeting this month, the islanders' effort gained momentum. VOA's Jessica Stone reports.
The Pacific Islands region is home to millions of marine animal species. Experts say some 44% are endangered or under threat. It's also home to people who make their living off the bounty of the sea.
It's our life. The ocean provides almost everything that we need for livelihood because we are ocean states.
Kiribati Ambassador Tibururu Sito says that's why people of the region are concerned about a proposal by Japan's nuclear power company, TEPCO, to release more than 1 million metric tons of treated nuclear wastewater from the Fukushima plant into the Pacific. Japanese officials maintain they can make the water safe.
The continued progress in decommissioning efforts, including the release of advanced liquid processing system, treated water into the sea, as well as Japan's science-based and transparent approach, has been appreciated.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says Japan is running out of storage space for the water and is following recommended safety standards for treating the contaminants. But at a recent gathering of Group of 7 environment ministers, Germany's top environment official refused to endorse the plan.
It is obvious that the ministers of environment cannot support the feeding back of contaminated substances into water anywhere in the world.
This release is absolutely unprecedented in terms of the scale.
Ivana Nikolic-Hughes is a chemical engineer who directs Columbia University's nuclear research in the Marshall Islands. It was here that the United States conducted 67 nuclear tests between 1946 and 1958. Nikolic-Hughes says more than 60 years later, her research team found radioactive elements in the coconuts here.
The radiation is still there. And I think for me, the big lesson is there's no such thing as as this kind of safe use or safe testing.
In February, the Pacific Islands Forum met with TEPCO, demanding additional studies of the decontamination process to assure members the release won't poison the water or the wildlife.
It must be safe. It must not impact adversely on the lives of their people.
TEPCO has so far delayed the release, giving opponents more time to push for other options. Nicolette Hughes says one alternative should be locating additional storage tanks to house the nuclear wastewater until the radioactive isotopes break down further. Jessica Stone, VOA News.
Fishermen in Madarumfa, Niger, count on Lake Madarumfa to provide them with a living and food on their tables. However, both are at risk because of a drought. Yusuf Abdullahi has this report from Niamey, narrated by Salem Solomon.
Madarumfa Lake has been central to the lives of the people in this region for generations. The lake, with an area of about 800 hectares at a seasonal peak, is located 20 kilometers from the southern city of Maradi. Saudu Garba is a fisherman in Madarumfa.
The Madarumfa Lake is a blessing for us. It is water with history because it belongs to God.
The people here rely on the lake waters to support their livelihoods.
Various activities are being carried out of this lake, such as fishing, farming, grazing, and others.
Residents say that in recent years, however, Madarumfa Lake has been receding.
We call on the government of Niger to help us save this lake so that we can get enough food.
The impact has been particularly harsh on fishermen, who say catches have been smaller and harder to find than in years past. Officials say one possible solution is to dredge the small channels that feed the lake, but such work is expensive and difficult.
There are problems of sand and silt filling the water channels and harbors. The problems are beyond the capacity of our local government because dredging the lake requires a lot of money, so we're asking for help.
Residents believe preserving the lake will also generate tourism dollars. The area is home to landmarks of religious and cultural importance, including the tombs of the 99 saints, which draw Muslim pilgrims each year. For Yusuf Abdullahi in Niamey, Niger, Salem Solomon, VOA News.
We take a very short break right here on KUTV Primetime News. When we come back loaded with sports news.
Kabla ya mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhan kuingia, ni saa ngapi, ni wakati gani, ni siku gani Ramadhani iingie? Kila mmoja alikuwa anafaa awe na hima siku ya Idi, kuwa na furaha, jitakase, waombee waliotangulia maombi, wafanyie maombi. Kwa hivyo bado nafasi unayo. Man swama Ramadhan. Maulaya salli wa sallim daiman abada.
Are you an aspiring media practitioner, a graduate, or you just want to advance your skills in television production? Then welcome to Kenyatta University, where education meets innovation. KUTV, the premier university television station in Kenya, is now offering short courses in TV studio, field technical operations, and video editing. Through these courses, you will acquire hands-on skills on camera operations, media production, lighting techniques, audiovisual editing, and sound and visual control, and how to operate key equipment in modern TV control room. Enroll today at KUTV and discover your full potential in cutting-edge TV broadcasting. Graduates of these courses will receive professional certificates. For more information, visit our offices at KUTV Studios or call us on 020-870-4252 or 020-870-4255 or SMS us on 0739-110-544. KUTV, a new experience.
Wataalamu Wataalamu watatu wamekutanisha bongo zao na kuweza kutafuta suluhu kwa wakulima ili pesa zisiishie kwenye malisho.
Amongst ile mimea tuko nayo tunauza, Super Napier Pacton 1 is the most promising. So embrace it and it will be good for your establishment.
Welcome back, and if you're watching this, you're watching Sports News. Italy's national football governing body has cancelled the decision to dock Juventus 15 points after they had been punished in January for claims of falsifying accounting documents, of the club. The Serie A giants now sit third in the league table, forcing Milan giants Inter and AC out of the Champions League places with 8 games to go. The Bianconeri played out a 1-1 draw in the Europa League against Sporting CP to qualify for the semi-finals 2-1 on aggregate. And Manchester United was eliminated in the quarter-finals of the Europa League after losing 3-0 to Sevilla. A disaster-class performance from goalkeeper David De Gea and defender Harry Maguire made it an easy win for Sevilla to qualify 5-2 on aggregate. Elsewhere, Mourinho's AS Roma and Italian giants Juventus are through to the semi-finals after winning 4-2 and 2-1 on aggregate against Feyenoord and Sporting CP respectively. We've come to the end of our bulletin tonight. Thank you so much for spending 1 hour of watching KUTV Primetime News, information happening in the country and beyond our borders. Sammy Okello is with us in the sign language interpretation, and I am Mutegi K. Martin. See you soon. Good night and God bless.